Hello and welcome back to Fuse Coding. I'm your host edA-qa mort-ora-y, and today we're going to continue with animation. We're having demo app and just get started. Let's see where we were last time. We'll jump right into the animations of what we already had. Then I'll introduce the show again. Let's get rid of this. Okay. So last time we were doing list animation and this should go away. Oh, whatever. Okay, ignore that. That wasn't part of my animation. That was OBS being itself. Make sure I'm still streaming here. Okay, I'm still streaming. Last time we put this list together, very quick one. And we had foreign source. The images are great. So we showed how when you press add, we did that little effect. It's not the perfect effect, but it works for what we're doing. And the ads would insert as well. And we're taking random pictures, and you can insert other items. And we saw how loading, we connect all the loading, the images together. We should probably reduce that effect. It's a bit extreme. Let me quickly get at that. We have, where do we have the linear gradient? We have it right here. And we have that gray color, which is probably a bit too gray. I think it was more fun to have it actually white. I didn't reload it yet though. Alright, well, nonetheless, let's reload, refresh, and then we'll see what happens. Still gray, that's weird. Sorry about that. Well, it'll reload soon. Something like that. But in any case, today what we want to do, we also had this other page, and we had this box on this other page, and we had these example animations. You notice the buttons down here are still quite poor. I didn't get a chance to fix them up. What was in the log? Nothing. And down here I started replacing the buttons. I added a resources file which has our standard resources, adds some fonts, and takes a standard material color palette, and we'll start using that now. But the point of today is we want to provide a way this sliding back and forth between pages in an app like this. I mean, a lot of cases sliding is really good, but between pages like this, the way I've set them up, there's no visual affordances that you would actually be able to do that. So we're going to find a different navigation technique, and we have a couple options. We can put icons on the bottom, or we can put a menu at the top. Why don't we do icons on the bottom first, just so we can see it. Icons on the bottom are a really good way to show your app. They're perfect for the UX, the user, to see what's there, whereas menus they have to dig around, but icon bars at the bottom, they're like right up front. First thing I do is put this page control in its new page. We want to separate this out. We want to take this and get the right keys, and we want to say, let's just call it home panel. Whoops. That was bad. Wrong key. What's it doing? Oh no. Okay, that's what we're doing. I want to put it over here. And, oh, we lost it. Man. So I cut and paste and I lost it. What I have. Home panel. We'll give this an error. And let's start with the home panel over here. And we'll put a panel UX class home panel. And we have a page control, and we'll be modifying this page control. Give it a name, nav. It's only on this page, so nav is just fine. And this should actually be a dock panel because we're going to stick stuff on the bottom. We want to stick a bar at the bottom. Panel dock equals bottom. And the color equals color primary. I don't know if that's the correct color for it, but why not? Let's do color primary. And we'll just quickly do the page indicator here first. Page indicator. Navigation equals nav. That's the one up here. We have the nav. And we have to create a dot factory for this. Actually, I'll show you what the default one looks first. It has a default factory. And we want to save this as home panel. Okay. So we clear that. We see the basic one is down here. You see the two little dots. That's the basic indicator. The basic indicator isn't so exciting, especially for this view. It doesn't reveal anything. You can't click on anything. So we're going to do the standard panel first of setting this up to have our pages on them. I don't know if we put pages on ours. So what we want to do is we have a page indicator, and whatever layout it did have, we're now going to give it a grid layout. Child order equals column major, and this will lay it out this way. Number rows equals, or row count. Sorry, I get this. Sometimes I get this wrong. This is 1. Panel U, and this is supposed to be the. It's like that. Sorry, I got this wrong. There's no. And for historical reasons, the template we want is called dot. Or was it called dot? It was called dot. And first thing we'll do is we'll just stick the text imager. Text value equals page title. Let's see if our pages actually have titles. First of all, I don't know if they do. Okay, I don't think our pages have titles, so we'll have to go add them. So in the main view here, what we had is we have home panel, and home panel has list page and box page. And list page is a page, but it has no title. So title equals listing. List, that should show up. So now we see listing show up. And the box page will have title equals, let's say, icon animations. That seems like a suitable title for it. And that'll also force us to deal with some text wrapping in the bottom there. And it's getting mad at us. Oh, because this is not a page. So we're actually going to have to make this a page. Actually, you don't have to make this a page. You can actually do this. You can do string UX key equals title. Because this is all it's really doing when you say title on a page. It's adding a resource with a standard title. Icon animations. In theory, this should work. I haven't done it in a while. Okay, so now you see icon animations here. You can add whatever you want to your pages this way. It doesn't have to just be title. So we have the two, and we have no way of knowing which one we're on. So the first thing we want to do is we wanted a bit of a... We'll just have to show something first, something that this is highlighted. Oh man, I forgot what page I'm on. So we can click to remove the home panel. And so none of these work actually like... And I'll just do something kind of awful here. We'll do color primary. Keep it at that. UX name. And we're going to do this. We're going to change this dot color equals color primary dark. And a whole bunch of colors changed, which was not the intent. Alright, and it's because of the template. I think it's because I had the wrong naming. This binds to the class, and we actually want to bind to the template, and I think that's supposed to have the name here. Okay, yeah, so now we have the name. You can see it's highlighting. Doesn't look so good, but at least we see the base up. It switches between them. Okay, and what we want to do now is we want to add, first of all, an icon. They're not looking good yet, but let's just add an icon to it first. And we'll change this color primary light so we can see that, or actually, no, let's leave that for now. Let's add an icon, or should we clean it up first? Let's clean it up first and say text wrapping equals wrap, max width equals 100, force it to wrap, text alignment equals center. And font size, we're going to make it fairly small. We'll change it later though. Font size equals that. And this should actually be alignment equals center. We want it in the middle there. And let's do that. Alright, so now we have that there. Page indicator is going to have some padding. Give it more space. And now we want to put an icon on them. And I installed Font Awesome recently, so we can go over to the Font Awesome website and we can grab some icons there. I typically tend to do that, and you can use whatever font you want. You can use graphics as well. Obviously, you can put whatever you want on those things. Fonts are sometimes a bit easier, and the icons. So if you're just going to look for the list of stuff, list. List seems reasonable. Like this list better. VH list, and we need the code for it. And they changed their website at some point. It's a bit unfortunate that they don't have all the easy codes for like XML and stuff on it anymore. And so we're going to go onto the list page, and we're going to do what we did like on the other one. We're going to put a string UX key equals font icon, UX value, and this is to get it and number X. It's so annoying to do. Or is it X number? No, number X. Okay. So we have this icon there, and I'll show you what that does. We can now actually on the home panel stick that in there, and we'll have 2 bits of text here. We're going to put a stack panel instead, and we're going to align that to the center. Text value equals page font icon, and font equals font awesome. I set that up in, this is over in resources. You'll see the font awesome here, and this is actually not part of this. Is from the dice. You see I stole it from the dice thing. Not main view, home panel. I want to make this font size extremely big. Let's make it 42. Alignment equals center. And what do we get out of this? We get this big icon is active. So this primary color dark is obviously way too much. It's going to be too dark, so we'll make it light. And we don't actually want the panel itself. I think we want a rounded thing, so let's throw something in the background. Rectangle, corner radius equals 5, layer equals background, color equals color primary, UX name equals back. Then we'll change the back color instead. Back. So we can get rid of this color here and give it padding instead, so we have something between the background and it. Padding equals 5. We still need an icon for the other one, and it got mad at us for something. There we go. So we have that, we have the icon, and this max width might be too much. Let's say max by 50, it might extend the size, but that's fine. Alright, and it's clipping it, which isn't so nice. Okay, icon animations, there we go. But we need some sort of item for that, so let's go grab something else. Do we have anything that says box? Well, let's use the archive. I don't know, what should we do? Is there anything for animation? Well, let's just take a random search this first and see if there's anything that spots our eyes. A box might be good, except if we're going to highlight a box, it looks kind of weird. And maybe there's mail because we're using that. No. Driver's license, hand shape, envelope. We have a bathtub. Well, it is kind of everything. We could. Hello, studio. So you're at the office this time. Good. You can join around with us then. Let's take a. Let's just use this archive one here. That'll work well enough. It's not extremely relevant for example. It's often good not to make it too suitable, and then nobody will want to change it. So the box page, and so we're going to have the same thing. UX key equals font icon. UX value equals. Oops. And number X. And that should put it back up there. So now we have the icon animation. So we have the 2 tab bars down there. And when you go between them, it's going to highlight the other one. It doesn't quite do it at the right time, if you notice. And let's make them clickable first off. And that's one of the common ones we do, and that's a very standard way thing you want to make it clickable. And we can say here, clicked. And this is a bit of a weird one to get used to, is I'm going to set nav.active equal to page node. What this means is page node, it says we had here page font icon, page title. Node is a special one saying the page itself, and active is the part of the nav saying which one is actually active, and we can set that. So now when we click, it goes back and forth. And now we've set it up far enough that we can actually start with how you go about the animation on this thing, because this animation isn't so nice. Alright, this whole page isn't so nice, but we want to at least clear up this animation. And the first thing we can do is, I don't even know how these things usually look like. This background animation, I'm not liking it so much. So let's get rid of it first of all. Let's get rid of that. And we're going to have a font color here. UX color equals, and what parameters do we have? Color primary light. We're going to go with color primary light, and I'll show you why. Color primary light. Not UX colors, just color. That was kind of boneheaded. Okay. And while active, and we have two texts here. T1. UX name equals T2. And say change T1.color to color primary. I didn't mean light, I meant. Oh, yeah, okay. Color primary light. That's not so good. I'm trying to think of what color I wanted. We want a light color. I don't know what the default should be. Color primary light. It's kind of light. Well, let's see what happens here. Let's see what this looks like, at least the first one. So that's a little bit too hard to read, the active one. And the other one you can't read at all. So that's a bit too light. So we're going to need more colors here. And I'm just going to use the color primary dark. I don't know if it's good. It might be too dark. This is something where you have to work out with an aesthetics guy. Where does this go? Let's ask the graphics guy. And color extra dark then or something. I don't know. And what do we have? There is no color extra dark. Color primary extra dark. Color primary extra dark. That's why. Okay. And now you can't see much of a difference. So we may actually let's just go introduce another one. I'm trying to think of how we might actually want to do that. Usually they come a lot darker. This isn't dark enough. Maybe the text should actually be darker. Color primary dark. And let's make the icon color primary light. Alright, so now you can read it. I don't know if you want to. The text is slightly different, not so good. And if you go over to it, it becomes the active one, and you can clearly see it then. I don't know what to do with the text, whether it should be the same coloring. But the first problem is we have is it doesn't really follow the animation. You'd want it to follow the animation on the screen. So we can fix that first of all. Is while active is an on-off trigger. It'll be on then off, and it's not bound to anything. But we have something called activating animation. Activating animation. And this will actually tie the progress of the animator, these ones, directly to the progress of the page control. And so we take off the duration, because they don't have their own duration. They become slaves to the page control. So now when we switch pages, it changes color in accordance with the actual switching at the top. It's a bit hard to see, they're falling apart, but it times up a lot better now. And this is highlighted enough. This is not a very good, like I say, these colors down here, I'm not liking them at all. But this is it's always a problem I've actually had when I go to like the material palettes. They give you these wonderful palettes of colors that look good together in their little listing, but the moment you attempt to do a UI with them, it's unclear what color combinations you actually use. So they don't actually save a lot of time. You still have to know how to put the colors together and how to do it quickly. And I've had examples of this working, and I just don't remember what I made it look like. You just have to have some color in between those. So this is our basic animation. We have this at the bottom. And because it's the same color, we might want to actually have some divider here, because we have different colors, and it's not so nice to have something slide on the top and have different colors. So I'm just going to do a hard division first of all. And we can do it right inside the page indicator. Create layout. Let's do it there. Let's do it here. Rectangle height equals 1. Alignment equals top. Color equals color primary dark. Then we'll have a separator at least. So we always have that separator, so it's very clear where the page is. It doesn't feel like correct right, but it feels better than having this flow into the other one. So these are the basic animations, but what else can we do? I mean, these icons, you don't want to make them do too much. You can do silly things like this. You can do something like activated. Scale factor equals 1.5, duration equals 0.3. So you have this activated trigger, because these are just pages. But honestly, it's a little bit silly for a page control, right? It just kind of looks funny. You might want to do this if your activation isn't from here. If we activated it somewhere else. But for now, we can just leave it here, and the activation only comes once it's fully activated. And I don't think it's really necessary. It's not really adding a lot. I'm going to comment this out because it's kind of silly. But where might we want an animation for navigation? We don't have titles to these things yet, so let's actually add a title here. Let's do a panel doc equals top. Color equals color primary. We'll do another color primary panel. Give it some padding, and give it 5 padding. And then we're going to put text right in the middle, but not... And we can do this. We're going to say navigation equals nav, because then we can do this. Text alignment equals center, value equals page title. So now we have the title at the top, and as you switch pages, you'll notice it changes as well. But you say, well, that's not so satisfying either. We want to do more than that. We want an actual animation up there, because this demo is about animations. How do we get an actual animation up there? Well, let's do it this way instead. Instead of using the binding directly to the page, what we can do is we can add a page indicator. And this will be a bit to get right, but the page indicator also adds an item for every page. And this is a bit overkill because it's going to add too many indicators. If you have a whole bunch of items, you don't want to do this, but since we have this main thing, we'll never have many, so this is totally fine to do. And we're going to make a panel UX template as dot. We're going to stick this in the center, and we're going to do the exact same thing. Now this is where it's going to get a bit weird, because at first you get this layout from the page indicator. Now we don't want that layout. We want the default layout. I actually don't know if this is available. I've never tried to force a default layout. Okay, and now you just notice they're stuck on top of each other, which is what we want, because we're going to actually animate them out of the way based on the page progress. So we can do this one. We'll do the same thing, activating. Actually, instead of activate animation, we're going to do 2 animations. We're going to make them go left and right, just like the pages. So entering animation, I'm going to get this backwards, and when it's in front, we're going to move it to the left. Move x equals -1 relative to 2 equals parent size. And we're going to do an exiting animation. And if this works, I'll explain to you what they're doing again just in a second. 1 relative 2 equals parent size. Now you notice the 1's gone. And why is that? What happens when we switch pages? You notice the title moves along as well. Now it actually just looks like the whole page is moving across, but it really isn't. The page is not moving across. And we can see that in that we add a fake hamburger menu here. Let's add that first so we can clearly see that it's not moving across. Menu, menu. This page is hard to search now. So let's add our hamburger. And F0C9. These are probably part of the standard Unicode. A lot of stuff don't need font and system for anymore. And on this top, we're actually going to have a text alignment equals center left, value equals whatever this is, and number X. Font equals font awesome, whatever size it is. And now you'll actually see that the text on the top is moving as opposed to the whole item being moved. So when we switch, the hamburger doesn't move. You notice the text actually goes behind it. And we can exemplify this a little bit more because we don't actually have to move all the way across. We can move a little bit less because we know we're never going to take up the whole thing with 0.9, 0.9. And we might also want to do change. Do we have an opacity? We have a dot that opacity equals 0. So we can make it go invisible as well. We might want to do that. This is just to exaggerate the effect. You can see it. It's probably not a very good animation, but at least we can see it and see what happens. So we switch pages. It goes and it fades away. Now it's going very fast, and that's because the page animation itself is going fast. But you don't get the overlap on the top, and it does fade. And it doesn't quite go as far. Actually, it looks like it's going the same distance. I don't know if it's reloaded or not. Let's just refresh the viewport just to be sure. Refreshing. Okay. It's hard to tell if it's going less. Let's make it 0.5, exaggerate the effect even more. Since we're making it invisible, we don't actually have to go the whole way. Yeah, now you can clearly see it does not go all the way. And so you have a parallel animation. It's sort of like a parallax. It doesn't quite follow the page, but it goes left and right. And maybe changing the easing might help, but this is fine. I think this is fine. And so what we did is we used the page indicator. This is another way to use page indicator. This bottom thing is a page indicator as well, and our animation only affects the highlighting. And at the top, the animation affects the graphics themselves. I mean, the position of the text. So we have two ways to do it. And so we might want to do the animation at the bottom. Maybe we want to do it a separate way. I'm trying to think of how we might want to do that. What kind of effect could we possibly do at the bottom that would make sense for animation? I don't think here's one. Has anybody ever seen one? Have you ever seen an animation for the action bar at the bottom here that would actually make some sort of sense? I don't know. Okay, but that gives us our basic navigation anyways, and we have these two animations. And at the top I showed you how we use entering and exiting animation, and I'll explain what those are. It's when you have an ordering of stuff like page control. You have the ones that are at the front, this is list page, and the ones that are at the back, box page. And I didn't mean to delete that. And you have an order from front to back, from front to back. And let's add one more page just to make this interesting. I don't know what we're going to add into that page. We're going to add selections at some point so we can foreshadow what we do. Select. And we have to make a selection page, UX class equals select page. Select your selection page, select page. Title equals selection, and string UX key equals font icon. We need one of those. UX value And we need something that represents the selection. I don't know what represents selection good. Probably a checkbox if they have it. Check. And or maybe a shopping cart, because I don't want to have two lists. It's a bit weird. But we can do this one. Let's do this one. Let's do checks. And we have this Unicode value. We'll copy it over. And hash x. And I mean, there's nothing on this page. I just want to show in the home panel that we actually have those ones, and so we should have. So now we have 3 icons here, and you can switch between all 3 of them. And just so we have an extra page to show the selection, and this explains the entering and exiting, is that these come in order. When we have a page control, these are in order of list box page from top to bottom, and this has to do with entering and exiting. These are some old names, unfortunately. When you see entering, just think in front. When I go to icon animations, listing is in front of it and selection is behind it. So this is the entering side and this is the exiting side. And we should probably change the names at some point, but it's easy enough to get used to that entering means in front of and exiting means behind. And this says the animation, what happens is when this page is in front of the active one, and what happens when this page is behind the active one. And these apply in turns, you can go between them. We should align these icons a bit better. The text doesn't line up, but the title should probably be different. Instead of having 2-line titles, we should probably actually fix it so the box page just has animations as the title. And this is you could actually have a different title at the top and bottom. So let's actually see if this works. We're going to string UX key icon title. Let's see if we can get this working. Icon title is just animations, and we'll save that. And it's the icon animations page. It has the title at the top. We want a different title on the bottom. We just want animations there. And how can we do that? We should be able to make it default. Default. If there's no default, I'm wondering if we can actually do it. I'm trying to think of a way with expressions. Can we actually make it a default if there isn't one? Not page title, but we have page icon title. Otherwise, page title. But this checks for existence. It doesn't check for empty, so it's probably just going to ignore us. It actually worked. Alright, I'm going to have to add a test for that. I'm surprised that works. But the coalesce operator, no, that makes sense. If it has an icon title, it's going to use it. Otherwise, icon title ends up null. These pages don't have one, so it falls back to the normal title. And that lets us have a different title at the top and bottom. And so these texts down here will be different. And so that ensures that our fonts line up a bit better. We don't have different sizes, and they all line up just fine. And what else can we do here? We have the buttons, we have the adding. We have the, okay, the white is loading now, so we have that loading effect. Okay. Clearing, you may want to think about clearing when you have left-right animation, where the clearing goes. Now we don't want to let the user, now as you notice when the user does this, this is actually very interesting. If you look at the top while I do this, you can generally see now that the transition is actually tied to the user operation. And it's exactly how far across they go. And the same on the bottom. If you look at the bottom, you look at the fading, whether it goes across or not. Oops. You probably don't want to have this animation on such a thing. Or I don't know, it's hard to say whether swiping makes sense here. You have these buttons. There's no need for the swiping. If you really want to get rid of it, you can just go in the page control and say interaction equals none. And that will turn off the basic swiping. So you can still click on the bottom but I won't be able to swipe back and forth. You can't see it. I am pressing the mouse. You can trust me here. I'm pressing the mouse, not going back and forth. And so we've disabled the swipe with actually none. And so this is animation. If you see the smoothing, it's not as flashy as this animation, but we do have the animation going back and forth. And what else can we do for animation right now that works well from here? We have the text at the top. I don't actually want to implement the hamburger menu now. That's going to be an edge navigator. I'd actually like to do something else for animation. And how can we do that? We can do a... What should we do? We can do a... If we add a bunch of things here. Do we have a swiping animation? We have this. I don't know. Let's add a typical share menu at the top. I don't know what to put it in right now for this app. Maybe we put it on the animations page, like export or something, or let's put a little config button up there. I don't know what it's going to do, but let's add a config button to this page. That is the listing page, or the box page, and we have this press button. Oops. I'm going to remove for now. That's an attempt to fix certain things. But now you see they have the issue that, well, this page doesn't define the top left. How do we put something up there? How can we define something for the top left menu? And this actually gets a little bit tricky, and I'm trying to, how did I do that before? For the page we had something specific to it. How can we define a menu that's per page on the page itself? Trying to think. I've done this in a few places, but I don't remember. I used an alternate route. And PullToReload. Do you want to PullToReload instead? Alright, let's see if a PullToReload works. I haven't used one of those in a long time. But that has animation. I wrote the PullToReload, so it would be on this page. When you pull down, you'd have a PullToReload. And I'm going to have to go look at the docs for that, because I've forgotten how to use that. And if that works, maybe we can do the config, but I've forgotten how to put the little icon per page. There is a way to do it. I wrote that too. PullToReload. There's a behavior, I think, a standard behavior. PullToReload class, and when we look at the full example, let's just take the example. Let's see what this does. Then I can explain it from there what happens if we have it. PullToReload, we have to put it inside the scroll view. It's a behavior. And it's using the wrong indentation. Bad websites. And it is a state machine, and it has a bunch of timelines. And I don't know how complex this one is. We're going to see what it does first of all. And it doesn't actually reload anything, this one. It doesn't actually bind to the loading things. List page 18. So these are a little bit weird. I'm trying to think of where to put these things. What does this page do? Alright, well, let's put some indicator on the dock panel and do this circle alignment equals top right. I just want to see what it does first of all. And we'll just make it transparent, completely transparent first of all. and it's using the name color to do that. Okay, and you can see the indicator, right? And that's sort of its feedback for the pull-to-reload, and we will be animating that. Let's actually implement the reload first so we actually have a clue that this is actually working. And there's one callback thing we have to do. Pull-to-reload, range equals snap max to default, reload handler, I think that's what it is. This is not a complete example. We have a pull-to-reload somewhere else. And this one's not well documented. Loading, rest, load the pull-to-reload as a scrolling animation. Oh, here's a complete example. This one looks nicer as an example. Much nicer example. So we're pulling, pull past threshold and loading. We have these here, pulling, pull past threshold and loading, and a rest state. And now we have to have two bindings, is loading and reload handler. We're just going to stick these in here. Is loading and reload handler. We can just call it reload. Do we have any binding for these pages? We have a binding. We have a binding to a list page. So these are going to bind inside of there, and it's going to complain that it doesn't know what they are. We have to introduce those variables. Is loading equals false, and this is the one we're binding to. And then we also said that's, so we have this loading, this is a parameter, and it goes into here, is loading, and reload handler reload. It's going to be a function. And the first thing we're doing is going to say this dot is loading equals true. So we'll export that. And then we're going to set a timeout where the function comes first, which is really kind of annoying. This dot is loading equals false. And this dot items. And we'll just give it 3 new items. Chat item. New chat item. So at least we simulate the loading first of all, and this we'll make this happen after 1 second. We'll make it a bit slow so we can see it. Okay, and when we reload, it reloads then. Okay, but we have to have better feedback, and reload is true. That should be fine. What happens while it's loading? It's a green flash, it's pulsing flash, which is not so wonderful. And there's a weird little delay there. I don't know where it's from. Let's increase the timeout here. I just want to see where the delay is coming from, if it's really... No, it goes away right away. Which kind of sucks. Something wrong with it is loading. I haven't tried this with the model. Maybe there's something issue with that. We've always used the old method. And let's worry about something else first, though. What we have is we have... To get the spacing right at the top is sometimes an issue. How do I want to do this? I want to set the green flash. These flashing ones are really kind of terrible. And I don't even know why I use these timelines here. This is really a bad example. We've got to go through and fix this up in the docs. This is not a good example of how to do this. Let's just change this entirely here to get rid of this state. Is while we're pulling, we're just going to change color.color to be red. Don't need to do anything else. You change it to red. And change color.color equals... Actually, let's make it red once it's reloaded, and yellow when it's about to reload. And loading, we'll just make it green so we can see what's happening. And the rest state, we'll just do nothing to it. So when we're pulling, it's yellow, and we pull far enough, it goes red. Okay, and so now you can see it a bit better. The green actually stays, and I think it was the cycling before was the issue. The cycling was an issue because it would disappear and make it look like we didn't wait long enough. But so the basic pulling is we have yellow until if we let go, nothing happens. When you pull far enough, it switches to red. Then when you reload, it starts loading, and then it gets loading there. Now we have 2 loading indications on this page already, which is very kind of curious. And so we can actually tie those together. Because we had the loading page before, we had it based on other items. So where is our busy indicator? You can't really change how far it needs to be pulled. It's kind of a high-level behavior that just like, this is it. You deal with this. This is your pulling. And you can animate it, but you can't do much more than that. It's a fixed kind of height. And we've really never gone back to it and improved it a bit. Because once you have the basic reloading, we just wanted to get the basic one working well. And configuring it's a bit troublesome. Okay. Well, busy, and so we have multiple reloading indicators. We have the one at the bottom, and we have the one down here. And I'm just wondering if maybe they should be the same. Let's just leave them different for now, and we can worry about it because merging them together makes a lot of difficulty. So let's just worry about this one at the top first. We want to put something in that little box where it's loading from. So you notice this PullToReload, it had those little gears that came out. And it had a fixed height. Okay, no, if you want the, okay, this is actually pretty hard to set up, this one. This is a rather involved example. Wow, they did a lot there. They did a lot to get those little gears there, and I've done it before as well. And we had to start messing with the scroll bar. Well, let's do it anyways. Scroll view snap min transform equals false. I'm just going to use the one here. What this means is that while the scroll bar is being pulled from the very top, do not actually move the scroll bar. I'll show you what that is in a second. And this assists in the visual transformation. See, you notice the scroll bar doesn't move. It moves up, and the bottom works, but right at the top it does nothing. And so now we're going to add some cogs in there. And we want to change to 150. I think this is the fixed height. And we can put this on the snap min side of things, so we control this on our own. I'm not clear why it's not on the scroll view itself, to be on the PullToReload. I thought it should be there. But let's put it there. Come on. Wrong place. And we're going to put a panel at the top. Panel dot equals top. We're going to make it take space away from this scroll bar. UX name equals pulley. And I'll just give it a color for now. A4 or F or something. Doesn't matter. Height equals 0. This doesn't need a duration because it's based on scrolling. Maybe we should have done scrolling animation first. Okay, I had errors, so it didn't reload something. Oh, yeah. This is pulley. And so now you notice we pull down and we've made our own area for what's up there. And we have a panel there, but we don't necessarily need that panel. We can put something else in there. I just did the color right now so we could see it. We have all these animations happening. You notice they all work together. It may not, this is not producing a visual pleasing effect at the moment. We have to subdue this a little bit. And the loading text is probably pretty bad. And we should merge those together, but let's finish off the pulling first. And so we don't really need this circle up here anymore. And so what we can do is we can say that when it's loading, we can change the pulley.height to be just 50 instead. And we'll get rid of the circle thing. Well, pulling, we're just going to do nothing. So I'm going to do absolutely nothing while pulling it. And once we've pulled it past the threshold, then I'm going to change the color of it to be red. And while it's loading, it makes no difference. In the rest state, nothing happens. And I did something wrong. Color, yeah, pulley. So we get rid of one of the circles. Okay. And this is because we have no duration here. We might want to say 0.1 or anything like that. And so it goes away. So you see while it's loading, it's actually showing the little loading bits, and then it goes away. You'd have to play with it a little bit to get the value you want. And we have the while busy down there. Now it's not satisfying to have that while busy, so maybe we wanted to get rid of the we want to get rid of that. We already have a while busy indicator down here. So we don't need to have this loading up here. So let's get rid of this one because we already have it. We don't need a rest state. We don't need a loading. We'll just leave them there for completeness. We just want to do something when it shows us the pulling state there. Well, actually pulling, we might want to change something as well. Well, what we do is because we have this is loading, let's change the busy indicator. And we're going to have an explicit while true down here instead. UX name equals any busy. And we can have multiple things changing this to true. Any busy dot value equals true. So if we're busy, it's going to load it to true. And we're also going to have while true value equals is loading, change any busy dot value equals true. So either of these conditions will do it. And there are a few ways you can combine them. This is actually one of my goals. I want to make it so you could actually combine these two conditions inside this while true. You can't quite do it yet, so you're forced to do this chaining, but the chaining also works. So now when I pull down and I let go, we have the common loading. And that loading should have come up right away, but it didn't. Why did it not come up? Let's extend the page to make sure. Let's make it take 5 seconds to load. Why is it? So these are marked loading. That's a little bit weird. And then it marks loading. Okay, I have something wrong in the UX here. I put this in the wrong place, that's why. So let me copy this first. This is for the individual items, and they're not supposed to be bound to while loading. We put bound the wrong item. And where's the other busy item? Busy, 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 while busy. Right at the top is where the while busy is. I wanted to put this up here. If there's anything busy, we're going to change any busy while true UX name equals any busy. it's supposed to be well true now. Okay, so now when we pull down and we let go, we have the loading indicator. And it takes a while, and then the loading there. So you might want to have actual extra values here. So what you might want to have is something like this. You have the stroke width, which is 10 right now. You might want to do this if you want some more visual indication. It's something to modify it that if the user has an error, they can at least describe it. So when they're feeding back to you without any logs, it's sometimes useful to have these visual clues so they're describing. You can actually go back to the programmer and ask, hey, is there something different happening here? Then we do that. And then we have turn here, so if it is loading, like make it 20 wide instead. So we pull down. And, oh, because we're animating the width, it's not going to make a difference here. So let's stop animating the width. And we pull down, we have a much thicker loading. And then when it finishes loading, it goes to a thinner one. And so this gives us a way to actually give more feedback without overloading the user a bit. We just say something's happening, and now we say if something big's happening here. And you know, maybe they don't notice the loading down there. You can have multiple loading icons. It's not a problem to put it wherever you want. And this margin was actually a little bit low, I found. There's many options here. This thing at the top, it's not so good. Now, we'll at least see something's loading. I don't know if we want to show anything here at all. And what you may want to do as well is that to show that the whole, we need that there, this doesn't really show the whole list is reloading. We don't want to just clear it. We might want to actually say something more, like there's actually, where's our actual list in here? So our actual scroll view here, the panel, the pulley, this whole duct panel. And we have the scroll view, the stack panel. We can actually have the name of, these are the item listings. And you might want to have it in here, while busy, not this while busy here, while true, if this is loading. So you can do multiple feedbacks the same value, this works fine. And we do change item listing, the opacity equals 0.5 or something, or 0.3. Duration equals 0.3 as well. And this should give the extra visual clue to the user that the whole list is loading. And so they don't really see anything, they can't interact with it, and then it's actually loading the individual items. And the individual items have their own loading, and this is distinct from the full loading. And it's not obviously it's not a very nice UI. This would need a much nicer visual design, but it shows, it gives the feedback, it satisfies you something's happening. They can see this is grayed out, that they can't do anything right now. They have a loading, and then these have individual loadings. That loading text is kind of awful. We can remove that and just use the font size. And the frequency I find is way too fast, so let's actually tune that down a bit this here as well. And these add quite fast, so that frequency isn't so great. Let's make them add a bit slower. Let's do a bit of math.random times 2,000 plus 1,000. So they're all going to add at different times. If we add a whole bunch of them, they'll all take different times. Now we're showing that they're loading as well. And if you reload the whole list, it also shows that they're loading. And so we have these visual clues that something's going on. Now obviously you'd want to have much better colors than this, and before I release this as a sample, I'll hand this off to probably a graphics guy to actually say, hey, can you give me some better colors here, because we need to make this look a bit more fit. But it's actually really tricky to get a whole bunch of visual indicators connected together. I mean, from the UX, you see the UX wise, it's relatively straightforward from UX how to do it, but visually this gets really difficult to combine together. This actual pulling we probably don't like too much here as well. And let's do something else for pulling. I've always wanted to try something else. Let's do a different pulling indicator. Rather than a panel, we'll still have that panel. Where did I put it? Pulley. Pulley. Where's pulley? We're going to take the color off the pulley. And we're going to stick a curve in here. And we're going to put the first point. We're going to draw a line across the top. Add equals 0, 0. Curve point at equals, what do I want to do this? 1, 0. These are relative to the size of the control. Then we'll do another curve point at 0.5, 1. So this is based on the height of the thing. And the color will be, let's just do primary light. Color primary light. UX name equals load feedback. And we'll change the color down here. So when you path special, load feedback, color, and we give it a duration as well, 0.3. This probably won't do something very nice yet, but let's see. Oh, we got an error. Did I get an error? Okay, but now you see the curve. So you see a little bit of a curve there. And, you know, it's not the greatest curve. And so now we have this tangent. This is going to 1. And here I want the tangent actually to be away. And I want the same tangent here to be away. And I want the tangent here to be flat. And this we control the curve. This lets you control the curve very interestingly. Tangent. And Old is an example of a slider that did some advanced curve things. Okay, so I messed that up. The tangent going in. Tangent going in here is -1. This should be 1 here. This tangent should be 1. And this actually has to be -1. And these tangents, this type of stuff, most likely you'll do in a high-level graphics editor. But if you can understand the basic curves, and then you should be able to come up with it. So I have something weird here, okay? I'm doing something weird. And I think I might have to add a few more curve points here. We can actually set a second curve point, and this will make a cusp, and put a cusp here as well. So our cusp is almost working, but I only have one curve. And that's because the return to end, I forgot about that, you have to close it off at equals 0, 0. And actually maybe this would be fine. This should be 0, this should be going -1. 1.0, this should also be, no, this should be going 0, it should go in that direction. And I can probably get rid of that tangent. Alright, so that's more what I wanted. That's the shape I wanted. It's hard to think of these things in code. I really suggest using an editor. But now we have an actual pulling shape here. And these tangents are multiples. So if I put like -5 here instead, it's not just a direction, it's a scale of the tangent. It gets really thick. Could it be a... Oh... Okay, oxygen deprived. That's really asking a lot right now. Not with this control. The curve point could handle it because these are actually unfixed points, but we have no easy way now from the control to feed in where that point is. But that's what I wanted to show now, is if we start with a high level tangent, we can also change the tangent. We can do change, and we're going to do this change UX name equals pointy bit. Change pointy bit dot tangent equals minus 0.5. And it got mad at me for something. Pointy bit. Pointy boy isn't mad at me now. No, it's not the wrong tangent. So now as we pull it, it gets pointier as well. Right, so we can actually change the pointiness of it. And I wonder if I can actually start adding well, that's probably going to break it. Let's find out. Yeah, so we can actually change it a bit. And if you play with the curve enough, you can change it. You'd have to add more and more points here as to what the tangents actually are and where it makes sense and where they come from. Let's just leave it at a simple tangent bit and take the basics here. And you can see it gets pointier. That's the effect I really want to show. And that this shows the curve point that as you're pulling it, it actually changes the shape of it. We don't have a great shape, but you notice it does change the shape, and it gives it that kind of organic feeling to it. Like, hey, this is actually something cool. We made something. And if you played enough with the curve points, you could probably get it to become pointy, or a little drop shape or something. But that's a lot of playing with the points. And so we have the feedback. We have the color, and it turns red. Let's let it relax for a second first. So it's blue, 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 blue until it becomes red that we've loaded it. And we pull quite far off from the side that these tangents are a little bit rough. And let's change that a little bit. I want to change it not 0,1. Wait, I got those backwards. Where's this? It's Xcode. Alright, I got something wrong with the tangent. So I'm going to go back to the simple ones. You'll want to design what your tangents look like first in an editor. I've done these in Inkscape before for chance. Illustrator should do the same thing, and then you can actually do the final curve you want, and then you do the first curve, and then basically just manually input the change between those 2 points, and it should get you the animation you want. And I just can't quickly do it here, obviously, because I can't think in Bezier curves. Alright, so that gives us our loading. We still have a coloring issue, but that's okay. We start with the color, turning to coloring red. I didn't want to turn to red. Let's do primary color dark instead. Color primary dark. Thanks, Oxygen Deprived. Yeah, there's some fun stuff you can do with this, combining it all together, and good. And so that signifies the reload. And this is a really strong user feedback, right? The one thing we don't have yet is requested features. Once the user's gotten here, there's no way to reverse it. It's stuck. You're stuck in loading land. But I've seen a lot of apps do that, and the standard app I think does as well. A lot of the apps in iOS, when you do pull the reload, once you're into reload land, you're stuck there. But that's okay. So we have all this feedback now. And the one thing nice about doing this in the declarative language is that all this overlapping feedback, you don't have to worry about it getting stuck. These things are independent. The system will figure out how to load them on their own. You can even have stuff disappearing at the same time as loading. It doesn't care. Even while the other loading is, you can just basically not worry about any of this and insert new things while it's doing all of this, the loading. Uh-oh, I was saying that. There might be an error. Where's my log? Aha! Okay, so this is a, how do I print the screen in Mac? Hello, print screen. There we go. You won't have to worry about such things. This is a defect. What I meant is you don't actually have to worry about stuff getting stuck. And if you're doing otherwise manually controlling these states, this gets very hard because there's a lot of states happening here. You have things being removed. You have the reloading state. You have the individual busy states, this loading state. And you have this loading state. And you could be having individual loadings, the actual graphic loading, an item loading. All the while you could be switching pages and have something happening on the other page. And the declarative format makes this fairly straightforward that, hey, look, just say what you want in each case and we'll worry about blending that all together for you. And so this pull to reload is really good. And I think that's enough for today. If there's any questions about that, you can ask them right now. What I can say we'll do next time is what I really want to do is put a share menu as a context-sensitive menu in each one. Not because I want to show context sensitivity, but just because I want to show how to do little pop-up animations. And then we might add more animations here, but there's really boring ones. And again, we have these ones. We try and get it all together. Now this is where we might want to do is that these little indicators, what we might want to do is actually put one of the indicators down here. Because that's where they tend to appear, is put it in the icon down here. And maybe we can show how to combine that together as well. And this playground here gets a little difficult. I'm going to have to clean up the code offline because this gets really complicated if you combine way too much together. But the whole goal is here that these indicators will show up down here. And so we should actually make the app to work that way. Rather than just this big long list, we can stick them in. We can still also have the list showing this way, but actually can combine them down here. And so you could have indicators on here. And alright, so we played with this time the scroll to reload. We did the page indicators. We did activating, removing animations, entering animations. The removing works a bit better now. My colleague fixed that so you can actually remove items. And you can add a whole bunch of them now as well. And this, I think that loading effect's really cool when it works. And we don't have the hamburger menu, but if we switch items, we saw the scrolling animation at the top with the title text. We just have an empty page here. And that covers what I wanted to cover today. I'll push this code all up again so you look at it. This isn't quite using the release. This is using one patch since the release, and the one patch fixes one defect. And that one defect, we don't know if we're going to push it out to the 1.6 or not yet. Hopefully we do. Otherwise, there's a few cases it might fail. That's the removing in particular. But otherwise, all of this code should work. And I can push that up to my repository, and I'll put it in the note to the show. And then on Wednesday, we might continue with this, or I might do something else. Can't keep doing the same one. Might do something slightly different. Might go back to the Dice app and implement some of these things. But I'll try to actually clean up some of this on the side as well, because this code's looking a little bit rough. And if anybody has any layout ideas, you can also send them to me. I'm more than happy to change the layouts so it looks better. And that's my show for today. I'm very happy that you watched. Again, make sure you subscribe, follow, or whatever you'd like to do, and do like the things either on Twitter, on YouTube, or on Twitch. And make sure you like them. It helps a lot. Your feedback on there, any likes I get, it really help a lot to to expose the show and get more people watching. So thank you very much, and until next time.